But my younger one is always, his perspective is so unique and amusing at the same time. He'll just be like, so you buy it, then you return it if you don't like it, or you use it and you return it. It's all about consumption for kids, right? My career had to take a back seat, but I didn't want to sit at home full time. So that's when technology came to my rescue.
Today we have Nidhi. Nidhi is a mother of two sons. One is a toddler, 5 years old, and a teenager who is 13 years old. She is a practicing lawyer and an influencer as well. So on that note, I welcome you, Nidhi, to this talk show. And from what I have heard beforehand, she's also struggling in the same zone like other parents to talk about children, about the concepts of money, to teach them that sort of literacy when it comes to money and finances. So how is it going for you, Nidhi, at the moment?
Thank you for having me. At the moment, I think it's going good. I think today we are placed, especially in metropolitan cities, we have the right kind of help and infrastructure and facilities to give a decent childhood to our kids. So that way it's going good. But yes, as you said, financial education is one tricky area, and honestly, I think we are also struggling a bit there.
And how are you, managing a full-time career with two children and being an influencer as well? And definitely the age groups that you're dealing with, it's a toddler as well as a teenager. I think it's...
You don't want to make my shoes.
So talk to me about some of these challenges, that how you're dealing or how you're making sure that you have work-life balance.
So when after my younger one was born, and especially after the gap of 8 years, I was already at the peak of my professional career, and I had very, very long working hours. So I knew consciously that then I had to, my career had to take a back seat, but I didn't want to sit at home full time. So that's when technology came to my rescue. So even before COVID came and people realized the value of working from home, or for that matter, working from anywhere. So I was using that even before that. So I wouldn't go anywhere where I wasn't physically required to be present. Say, as a lawyer, I was required to be present in court while arguing a matter. So there I would go. For a meeting which couldn't be done online or on video call, I would go there. But otherwise, I took out as much traveling time out from my everyday schedule as I could. So that really helped me, devote that much time to my kids, and technology there really helped me strike a balance. And yes, then my aggressive career as a lawyer did take a backseat. That's when I picked up content creation, because it allowed the flexibility of working as per my hours.
And how are you dealing with different needs of both these kids as well as your career and the influencer career that you have?
And it's tough. It's really tough because these two kids have totally different demand sets and needs, and it gets very overwhelming at times. But I think the key is to tell yourself that you can't be everywhere, you can't be omnipresent, and you can't handle it all. So prioritize and choose your battles.
Well, I think that is absolutely correct in terms of choosing battles and prioritizing. So, while you're talking about these kids and, you not being there physically present, how do you make sure that you are, working on this gap? Because there are a lot of skills, a lot of values, I would say, or habits that you would want them to inculcate. And then you are not there physically present. Does that, lead to any mom guilt? I'm sure it does, and then that's a very, very common scientific scenario with most mothers. The second part of my question is, what kind of remedies are you finding to make sure that you can inculcate those habits and values?
So I believe in discussing, even if I'm not physically present with the child when, say, he's taking a class or he's learning a skill set, then I would like to come back and discuss. And then I also believe in taking a lot of feedback from the teachers. How did the child behave? What did he learn today? So see, maybe I can take the privilege of not being physically present, but I cannot take away involvement. I have to be involved still without being physically present. So that becomes really important. It also takes time, yes, because constant feedback, discussion, and it's not always possible also, but I think the child also then learns to be independent. that they don't want helicoptering mothers and parents around, and they learn to build those relationships with their teachers and with the caregivers and with technology, where they also learn to draw lines.
Anything specific that you'd like to tell us, or some, want to deep dive into in terms of challenges of financial literacy you see? Do you think it's a very early conversation to have with your kids, especially the toddler or the teenager? How do you make that difference?
I don't think it's very early because how we learned. We didn't learn finances at all. So financial education probably wasn't even coined then, the term, when we were growing up. So we had to learn. We as lawyers we learned the skill set, and then on job we learned the argumentative part of it. But when it came to finances, it was totally new to us. And though I come also from a business family, but somehow those conversations were very restricted. And me and my husband, because we are a nuclear family, so we really had to learn on our own, make our mistakes. So we try and involve both our kids in major financial issues. So whenever we are discussing, say, a major investment or even a holiday, for that matter, we would tell them that, where would you like to go, what would you like to do, but then these are our financial restraints, these are our budgets, and we have to do something within these. So then same when it comes to, say, shopping, because there's so much peer pressure and there's so much out there that kids don't realize what they are aiming for or looking for and what's the relevance for it. So we tell them that we cannot afford this. We don't shy away in telling them that, some parents feel that you shouldn't tell your child that there are restrictions or there are limits. I think we should introduce our kids to that.
So how do you see that conversation changing when you're talking to your 5-year-old and a 13-year-old? I mean, it will be poles apart in terms of how you address it.
It is. So, like my 13-year-old would probably, feel the peer pressure and say, no, but that friend has it, his father does, his father is only a professional, but they can afford it, how can't we? So he has no relevant question, and my younger one would always tell me, आप एक और कार्ड निकाल लो, just swipe that card, that silver card you have, and get it.
Right. So I think the concept that money is always lying in a card and not understanding where it is actually coming from, because it's invisible for the kid.
Yes.
Totally understand it. Any other things that you've noticed about, which is, let's say, a funny thing about your children, and any funny incident you like to tell the audience?
So I think this is the funniest. Every time we are discussing finances, and my elder one would still try and see reason in what we are saying, but my younger one is always, his perspective is so unique and amusing at the same time. He'll just be like, so you buy it, then you return it if you don't like it, or you use it and you return it. It's all about consumption for kids, right? Get it, play with it, and then it loses its relevance. So I think he keeps the conversation very light.
On a slightly intellectual note, have you noticed that mostly as parents our conversation about money and finances are purely around consumption and very less about, let's say, saving or any other facets in terms of investments, or explaining to them how government or taxation works, something like that?
So saving and I think future planning is a part of the conversation. We do talk to them about their future, their education, and how planning finances is relevant for them, for us as a family unit, because there's only as much common pool and we have to work with it. So we are having those conversations, but I wouldn't say they're very structured.
Quickly, drawing parallels. Do you think this is a conversation that parents should have? Is a conversation schools to have? How do you think what is the ideal way of addressing these conversations at home?
I think it has to be a mixed bag, because the fact that the skill set is absolutely missing from schools is really hampering the process, I think, because kids absorb more from teachers, and as I said, I believe in experts. So when experts teach a child or introduce concepts to them, it's entirely different, because every time a parent introduces a concept, a child takes it with a pinch of rebellion, and but I think when it comes from a set of experts, it's very different. So it will be very important, I think, for schools to say have hold workshops or talk about it.
Anything? Do you ever feel that me time is something that you really need? I think this is
Always. I wish there were 48 hours in a day.
And how do you find that me time?
Outsourcing a lot. you are still taking care of your kids on holidays, but I think it's a very good bonding time, and where you're not bothered by schedules and other stuff.
So Nidhi, I think I've looked into your content that you kind of make, and it's always resonating about positivity. What kind of positive reinforcement tools that you're implementing with your kids?
I think what we say and what we do have to be in sync when we are dealing with kids. So a lot of struggle happens when I tell them to turn off the screen while I am on the screen. So they have to be constantly reminded that mama is probably working, and this is relevant, but I also have my limits. And for them, telling them that what they are trying to do something is what matters. You know, the end result matters, but that's not the end goal. The actual idea is the journey of actually getting up and taking the effort, putting in your best into something, and then reminding them that whatever they're doing, that they're trying their best, they're doing their best, and encouraging them there, giving them positivity there in whatever they're doing, so that they give more and put in more, and the end result, I think, then keeps varying.
And have you seen them respond to any reinforcement, just at the end of the day telling them, okay, you did a great job, or you're doing well, or I'm proud of you? Do you think that they're receptive when it comes to their learning curve when you're using positive reinforcement?
Yes, I think it works, especially after the whole day when you're putting them to bed and you discuss that okay, what did you like doing today? Did you have fun doing that certain activity? And when they talk about it positively and they recall all the experience, the good experience, I think that stays within them, and it also then makes the foundation for the next day.
Didi, I think children always mirror their parents, and generationally you've mirrored your parents, and you see that parenting is changing altogether. So how are you dealing with that trial and error with this changing world, changing parenting sort of a trend?
So I think as kids we really idolized our parents, and especially when we were younger, parents were not just human beings, they were like something bigger than human beings, and their failures and probably their mistakes were not as acceptable even to us as kids. I think that is really changing with the next generation. I am okay to talk to my kids and I tell them that probably I didn't put in my best today, or maybe I did this wrong and I shouldn't have done this today. One tries and keeps it very realistic, because then it also shows the kid that it's doable. It's human for them also to make mistakes, but at least try. So I think that idealization, I think we are taking away from our parents.
When you're talking about these interactions of paying, of receiving money, of doing the balance and check, are you using digital payments, or you're still on the cash mode when you're asking your children to interact with money?
For children are right now still only on cash interactions, but because digital interactions can be scary, honestly. So yeah, right now with them it's only cash.
Do you think it is their future where they will be dealing with digital money only?
Oh yes. Okay, so my kids, what do? Is now they've learned. So every time I'm placing an order on Amazon, I will, after I've done the payment, I realize that the amount is suddenly high, or an extra item is being delivered. So secretly things are added to my cart on my Blinkit and on my Amazons and on my Myntra, and then I realize, okay, where did this come from? So kids that way are very smart these days, and even my younger one would tell his brother, he would say, "Bhai, ye bhi add kar do, mere liye bhi add kar do."
They are dealing with money in a digital sense and they don't realize it, right? I think technology is changing, access is changing.
Yes.
Do you want to comment on that as well?
Yes, as I said, now everything for them is available at the click of a button. So every time, like if I would ask my mother, say I want XYZ, she would say, okay, we'll go to the market tomorrow or the next week, or the next month when Papa gets his pay, then we would consider this. With these kids, they're like, Mama, order kar do. Mama, Amazon? Mama, okay, Blinkit? Even if it's something as simple as, okay, what will you take for lunch tomorrow? And I tell them that, XYZ is not available. He'll be like, Blinkit it, Mama. Abhi, it's only 10 o'clock, it'll come.
You're talking about delayed gratification because a lot like where you say, okay, we don't want to order right now, we want to wait. Like for example, in the times used to be when your dad gets your salary or when you go to the next trip in market. Now with access, how do you make sure you're still teaching them delayed gratification?
So for bigger purchases, as I said, for a pair of shoes or for bigger purchases, we would, or for a toy, every time you are in the mall and there's Hamleys, you have to literally hide their eyes and take them away. So I actually talk to them that, okay, you want this, but why do you want this? What do you like about it? And do you think you will enjoy this, or do you want to consider a cheaper option?
So as a company who's solving for modern families, who's solving it via media technologies, any tips that you would like to tell us to imbibe in our technology?
I think you'll have to make it slightly subjective, as I said, based on the family's structure and also financial status. I think that will be relevant because then it becomes easier for the child to understand.
Absolutely. On that note, I will take the chance of thanking you for sparing time today. And as a role model, as an influencer where many parents are watching you and you're putting yourself as a pedestal, I hope we could bring out a personality of you and your family together and how you're dealing with parenting. And I hope as an audience you enjoyed watching the show. Thanks, Nidhi.